Is that the clapperboard?
That was the clapperboard.
Yeah. Okay. This is a Messerschmitt 110G4 Night Fighter, Eduard, 1/48 scale. There's a quite good box art. Eduard. Shows it having attacked a Lancaster.
Well, you keep going into my foreground.
That's right.
Don't.
Well, where I always was. Don't know about your foreground.
Not you, it's your box.
This is hard going. I must be on my fourth day. I'm not doing it every day, but I'm sort of getting round to it by late afternoon, and I've been on it for about 4 days.
I think longer than that, actually.
Possibly longer.
Yeah,
I've lost count. The thing is with Edward kits, they're beautifully detailed. They're famed for their surface detail. Their parts number is huge. The parts are tiny. And it took me about 3 afternoons to do this. Is that showing?
Yeah, it's
dark, so it's not, probably doesn't show up very well. But that's the pilot cockpit and the rear gunner radar operator's position.
You turn it round so we can see. Yeah, that's better. That's good. Okay. How long did it take you to do that?
I think it must have been 2 or 3 afternoons easily.
I heard you sighing
and
heavily.
A lot of sighing and heaving and sweat. I don't think I swore quite. I got near it. You can see one interesting detail. You know, clearly this fits longitudinally in the fuselage, like so. But it's got 2 cannon at the back pointing upwards, slightly forwards. This was a very clever German development for their night fighters. The Messerschmitt 110 had proved not very successful as a long-range fighter for escorting bombers in the Battle of Britain. It came into its own more, I think, over Russia as a light bomber ground attack, that kind of fighter, and as a night fighter, it was superb. But what happened was that I think the Luftwaffe intelligence, they obviously realised from crashed examples that most British bombers did not have any kind of defence underneath. Quite a few started with turrets underneath of various kinds, periscopes, this kind of thing, but they seemed to gradually just stop putting them in. And by the time they had an H2S radar bolt underneath, there was no room for it anyway. So the Luftwaffe must have picked up on this and realised that if you came in underneath the British bomber without being seen from below and up, you could sit underneath and they just would not see you. So they set this arrangement up, 2 cannon firing up with 20mm cannon. There must have been a gun sight up in the top of the cockpit canopy. They would just fly underneath, relatively close, moving with the bomber, and then just fire these 2 guns. They could fire them accurately into the wing roots where the fuel tanks were, which would, knock the whole thing out. Sometimes with the fuses, they could sort of aim that accurately. So it was highly successful. Called Schrägermusik. I think Schräger stands for slanting in German, or jazz music, Schrägermusik. Jazz music was forbidden in Hitler's Germany. Anyway, the detail's nice. It's nice when I get there, but bloody hell, the struggle. And I've got as far as the 2 fuselage pieces that this is going to go into. I've had to sort of get those out to arrange the various attachment of this before it goes in to make sure it all fits. So it is slow going. Currently I'm working on the interior surfaces of the fuselage. There are tiny little instruments and boxes and probably fuse boxes and all kinds of things on the side of the cockpit.
Blimey.
It's less on that side because the cockpit wall was built up more on the cockpit side. And I've started, just to keep myself involved,
That's a bummer. I have to cut that out if I can. Okay, go.
Still going. This is the nose cannon. I think that's twin 30mm cannon firing forward through the nose. I haven't got that to fit yet. And I think there's two more cannon underneath. So it was quite heavily armed. There were other versions that had 30mm cannon in tubs underneath the fuselage that came later, I think. So that's where I got to. You can see the that's where I'm getting these tiny instruments and panels off.
Blimey.
I mean, it also includes the seat belts, which have been also a bit of a struggle, but they look good because these are pre-painted by Eduard, and once they're in, they look good. But it's not. It's a bit of a struggle, has to be said. So that's as far as I've got, but I will carry on.
Good.
More episodes to come. Auf Wiedersehen.
Pet.
À la prochaine fois.